So why is he tweeting they prove he did nothing wrong? Will the next presidential election be a battle of the billionaires? For the first time on daytime TV, the man who turned the tide in the midterm elections, Michael Bloomberg, is talking about whether he'll take on Trump in 2020. Plus, Oscar and Emmy winner each will offend. So why is he tweeting they prove he did nothing wrong? Will the next presidential election be a battle of the billionaires? For the first time on daytime TV, the man who turned the tide in the midterm elections, Michael Bloomberg, is talking about men Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, and Meghan McCain. Now, let's get things started.
Madame Whoopi will be back tomorrow, but right now let's talk about what's going on in the world. I have to admit, I'm not convinced that Trump is guilty of committing a crime, but it sure seems like individual one is. Because he is individual one, get it? Among the latest filings from New York federal prosecutors is that Michael Cohen claims that individual one directed him to use campaign money to pay off Stormy Daniels and playmate Karen McDougal, which happens to be a federal crime. Yeah. But he calls it, Trump already has said, this is not a crime. This was a private transaction. Then why would you get 4 years for a private transaction? Yeah. That's what Michael Cohen is going to get.
I think it's significant in the sense that now you have the federal government, federal prosecutors saying that this president basically directed another person to commit a crime.
Right.
Because it's a felony to cause another person to make an illegal contribution. And I think that's one of the most significant things that has happened. But what most people are looking at is that Southern District filing. Mm-hmm. They're not looking at what the Mueller filing says. And the Mueller filing says that Michael Cohen really cooperated with the Mueller investigation, and in fact, he's been helpful on 4 main topics, Mueller writes. The Trump Organization's attempt to build a Trump tower in Moscow. Apparently, Cohen gave a lot of information about that.
Yeah, but let me interrupt you, because Trump said...
in district filing, they're not looking at what the Mueller filing says. And the Mueller filing says that...
He said that. I'm just taking his position for a second.
I don't know that we know the entire scope of what Mueller has, but we know that Michael Cohen cooperated with him extensively.
Right.
Talked about Russia, talked about the Trump business, talked about the Trump White House, talked about the campaign, and Mueller calls it useful. When a prosecutor says that was useful, you better believe it was useful.
Yeah.
And so it was useful to his investigation, and I think that really is what people aren't talking about, but probably should be.
You know, all this talk about Russian collusion, though, for the past 2 years, all the money that's been spent, the millions of dollars, there's still nothing that we know of as of right now on Russian collusion.
That's because Mueller has kept it very close to the vest.
Well, we also, and he's actually the winner in all of this so far has been Mueller, because he has been so quiet, and I think every journalist out there is dying to get anything from him. But the thing I've been concerned about from the beginning has been campaign finance violations, paying off these women, which is what
with Michael Cohen.
What's interesting, and you mentioned this in the morning meeting, Joy, is that if he runs again and he wins, because of the statute of limitations, 5 years, it could be that he gets out scot-free. If there is a problem here and he can get indicted.
Well, you're talking about there's a policy in the Department of Justice that you can't indict a sitting president.
Wait, what?
Sorry.
What's your question?
She's referring to the fact that the Justice Department has a policy that you don't indict a sitting president. But I just want to mention...
It's not in the Constitution.
It's not in the Constitution, and the Supreme Court has never looked at that question. So in my view, that is still up in the air. Everybody's saying, well, he can't be indicted as a sitting president. I say take it to the Supreme Court.
Oh.
Just saying.
I mean,
Just saying.
I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but I do know that in 2008, Barack Obama's presidential campaign was guilty of violating nearly $2 million in campaign violations. The matter was quietly settled with a $375,000 fine of the Federal Election
did he do?
Commission. Guilty of violating or involving early $2 million. Rand Paul was on Meet the Press yesterday, and he said, quote, "If we're going to prosecute people and put them in jail for campaign finance violations, we've become a banana republic where every president gets prosecuted and everybody gets thrown in jail when they're done with the office." Now, there's many campaigns
Well,
that
you can
don't,
make the case.
but I'm just saying
Yeah.
President Obama did as well. And I will say that in our entire history, there have been two presidents impeached, obviously Bill Clinton, and then Andrew Johnson in 1868 after the Civil War.
I dated him, yeah.
Didn't work out.
Touche. And I'm just saying that it takes, I think we come in the morning, and I'm sure people watching at home will turn on the news. I know that I'm getting this hysteria alarm every single morning, and I'm trying to delineate between what's fact and what's not fact as someone who isn't a lawyer.
Right.
Is there enough there? Does it seem like there's enough smoke there that there's potentially going to be something there? Yes, of course. Do I believe we're on the path to impeachment? Absolutely not.
I disagree with that, especially because I've been watching the Clinton affair on A&E. Clinton was
it's good. If you've
it's
not
real
seen
juicy.
that,
And
oh.
Clinton was
Yeah.
impeached for having an affair with Monica
No, for
Lewinsky.
lying.
No, for
Lying.
perjury.
But it was really for having an affair with Monica
no, it
Lewinsky
was
and
for
lying
lying.
about it. And lying about it.
Yeah.
But
I
that's what
think
got it.
that
It's perjury, not
rises certain. If that rises to high crimes and misdemeanors, then you best believe that what Trump has done in terms of directing Michael Cohen to commit a federal crime better rise to the level. I don't know what Rand Paul is saying, but
I want to quote Steve Bannon before we go. Can I quote Steve Bannon? Yeah. He says the president needs a team that can go to the mattresses. Don't you love a mafia? It's a mob. That's a mob
Did he
phrase.
just say that?
He wrote this. The president can't trust the GOP to be there when it comes. They don't feel any sense of duty or responsibility to stand with Trump. That's his biggest problem. That the GOP is not going to back him as soon as more of this stuff comes out. And that's why he's like a trap rat at the White
71% of
House.
Republicans think the Mueller investigation is a, quote, witch hunt, according to the NPR PBS NewsHour poll that came out last week. And right now, actually, for the first time, more Americans say they view Mueller more negatively than positively. At any other time, 29% favorably, 33% unfavorably. And I think there's a 7-point decline from the summer. I think part of this is Fisher Cut Bait Man. Show me your
you know what I don't
report at this
understand?
point.
Only 27% of Americans are Republicans. Why do the 27% of Americans that are Republicans
Because we
control
vote better.
what everybody else is thinking? I think that the other 73% of Americans don't care about that.
Okay, all of that will be, all of it will.
All the media's talked about for 2 years.
We'll be right back.
This Mueller investigation.
We'll be right back. 7%. So, I don't have a lot of time today. So, last week, Kevin Hart stepped down, apologized as Oscar host after some of his old anti-gay tweets emerged. You remember all that? Yes. Okay, but this weekend, his friend Nick Cannon asked he goes, interesting in these tweets he was doing. I wonder if there was any backlash here. And then he reposted tweets from comedians Sarah Silverman and Amy Schumer and Chelsea Handler, where they all used anti-gay slurs. So did he just open a Pandora's box here? And what is all that? Yes. Okay, but this weekend, his friend Nick Cannon asked he goes, interesting in these tweets he was doing. I wonder if there was any backlash here. And then he reposted tweets from comedians Sarah Silverman.
The people down. We look at their past, we judge them, we don't let them learn from their mistakes, and we don't forgive them.
That
and
seems
I
true.
feel like if I knew anything about the gay community, and everyone at this table has close friends that are gay, they're about the most forgiving people in this world. And so I think we've got to get over this, being so quick to judge people, finding failure on every single person's part, and just moving on and bettering each other, bettering society.
First off, can I just say, just take the side of these three girls for a second. From what I know of their work, they are pro-gay comedians. They are not people. The Kevin Hart thing was very nasty, I thought. When he said, break the doll's head and hit him on the head. I didn't like that at all. It upset me. But these girls, I shouldn't call them girls. We're not girls. We're men. No, kidding. Kidding. These girls are comedians, and they love the gay community. The gay community loves them. They're icons of the gay community.
But they still,
so I don't see how
Is it
they
about intent? Is that?
Yeah, it's about
the
intent.
right.
We were saying in the meeting, and I wish they had given us more time to talk about this, because this is actually one of the nucleuses where you and I have a lot of synergy.
Yeah.
Free speech is, I think, one of the tenets of being an American. I think it's extremely important. That doesn't mean that you can throw out slurs at people and not have ramifications in your work in one way or the other. But I don't want to live in a culture and a society where I think comedians and pundits in particular push boundaries for a reason. I don't agree with anything Bill Maher says, hardly ever. I watch his show almost every week because I think he's pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
Free speech is, I think, one of the tenets of being an American. I think it's extremely important. That doesn't mean that you can throw out slurs at people and not have ramifications in your work in one way or the other. But I don't want to live in a culture and a society where I think comedians and pundits in particular push boundaries for a reason. I don't agree with anything Bill Maher says, hardly ever. I watch his show almost every week. And Stephen Colbert, according to things that they've said in the past,
Basically everybody.
that's now the Kevin Hart rule. I just don't know who's going to be. And that doesn't mean it's okay.
Year old. Because a little
You
kid
said probably a mime or a
or
juggler.
a mime or a juggler or something like that.
That's why no one wants to run for office. No one wants to be as public as they used to be. This is a real problem. I think this should be a wake-up call for everybody.
But
Let's just
everybody
forgive
wants
and
to be
move
on The View. We'll be right back.
Next, a View exclusive. Michael Bloomberg talks about giving the White House a wake-up call that could save the world. And if he has his eye on the Oval Office in 2020.
How's this for putting your money where your mouth is? Michael Bloomberg put $100 million behind candidates in the midterm election, which helped turn the tide blue. He's also taking on the White House's environmental policy and is Michael, Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I call you Mr. Mayor, yes, you always keep those titles, don't you guys? You spent over $100 million helping Democrats in the midterms, and 21 out of 24 people that you backed
And I think 15 were women.
Yep.
And all of them.
2020, I'm just saying. Michael Bloomberg.
18 women.
18 were women, and the blue wave, yeah.
Care about climate change and want background checks for guns. Not to eliminate guns, but background checks. Those are the two things.
So you got everything you were hoping for. Okay, so what are you hoping that all that money gets you in January when they take over? What's going to happen then?
Good government. I mean, I said this a number of times. The Republicans did not exercise the check and balance on the White House that the Constitution calls for, and they were unwilling to take on any of the controversial issues, any of the major things facing this country. They did absolutely nothing. Time for a change. In business, you'd fire somebody if they did a terrible job. We just fired a bunch of them.
Why do you think the GOP was so, reticent or whatever you want to call it?
They became a party rather than of an ideology, of a personality, and now I think they're going to pay for it because when Mr. Trump is not popular, it hurts them at the ballot box, and they're going to really suffer.
Well, you've been very critical of President Trump, and you've been openly weighing a run against him in 2020. It's pretty open. And you flirted with running the last time. Do you regret that you didn't run the last time?
No, I think we found is you cannot win as an independent because the Electoral College requires a majority, not a plurality. And even if I did get a lot of electoral votes, you couldn't possibly win. It would have gone to the House, and the House would then pick the Republican candidate, or if it was next time, pick the Democratic candidate.
Yeah.
You have to have the...
You become a spoiler in a way.
Yeah, that's exactly what my obit would have been. He was the
Right.
spoiler. And this way they can write other things about me when I die.
What would make it more appealing to you then for 2020?
Well, you'd only run if you could get the Republican or the Democratic nomination. Obviously, the Republican's probably not going to be available, and I don't agree with almost everything they stand for today. So it'd have to be the Democratic nomination. And if you want to run, that's what you'd have to do. And I don't know. I've looked at it, and I've said, we'll, beginning of the year, focus on it.
So where does that...
Wait, I just want to make sure. You'd be running as a Democrat, correct? Not primarying President Trump.
No, you'd have to run as a Democrat. And before I forget, I just want to say, your father was one of my heroes.
You guys are, I feel it's a little strange interviewing you. We've been longtime family
Well,
friends,
I was gonna say, and I
yes,
knew you when you were this tall.
I know. You're a true friend to my
But, yeah,
family.
your mother
Going to a
upstate
pallbearer
from
at the,
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's there.
I was a pallbearer at the funeral.
Paul Bear and her father campaigned for me on the streets of
Good.
Brooklyn back in 2001.
One of the most memorable moments of my childhood is going to Italian dinner with you and my dad downtown someplace, and just your wonderful girlfriend. And yes, it's
Long time.
weird to be interviewing you because I know you very well, sir, but I'm fascinated that you will be running possibly for
We'll
president.
see what happens.
Where do you fit in the Democratic Party? Because obviously you won as a Republican, as an independent, but the excitement right now seems to be behind the more extreme wing of the Democratic Party.
the-
Bernie Sanders, Ocasio-Cortez. You would actually probably be more with Trump on things like China and maybe some business
Well,
dealings, I would imagine.
I think, for example, on China, it is asymmetrical. It's not fair to us. We should do something about it.
So you agree with them there?
With what he's trying to do, but not the way. You don't do it by going and pushing the other person into a situation where they can't possibly give you what you need. Negotiations don't work that way. You want to walk away where both sides think they got something, and we should push China. I'm the first one to advocate for doing it, but it's the style that you do it.
What happened to the art of the deal? I thought that's his whole thing.
Well, that's the name of the book.
Yeah.
A bit of diplomacy.
So you think, though, you could get through the Democratic primary as it exists today?
Well,
where the excitement is?
that's exactly what you have to try to figure out. I think most Democrats want a middle-of-the-road strategy. They want to make progress, but they're not willing to go and to push something that has no chance of ever getting done, and wasting all their energy on that. We have things that we need done. We have to create jobs for people today. We have to find ways to give medical care for people today. We have to fix our education system, immigration, climate change, guns. There's no lack of issues you have to face. And if you go off on trying to push for something that has no chance of getting done, that we couldn't possibly pay for, that just takes away from where you can really make progress in helping people that need help today.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. You've made a lot of calls for bipartisanship, but you're a leading voice in the anti-gun movement, which puts you immediately at odds with a lot of Republicans. You spent a lot of money, but Congress hasn't taken up any major gun control measures in a national level since Sandy Hook. So do you feel like your efforts have been effective?
What I have asked for, and most of my friends who have asked for, are background checks. We shouldn't be selling guns to minors, to people with psychiatric problems, or people with criminal records. Other than that, the Second Amendment gives you the right to own weapons, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's the Constitution. We're not going to change it. I think maybe automatic weapons don't make a lot of sense, but if you want to buy a gun and go through the background check process, that's what the law lets you do. And I'm not in favor of taking that away one bit. In fact, I had an NRA member came up to me yesterday and said, look, I disagree with you on guns, but let me tell you, I and all my friends are going to vote for you. I still think that there is
What do they
reasonable
disagree with,
restrictions you can put on it, who you sell guns to, and that's what I'm in
Does
favor of.
it dishearten you that there hasn't been any legislation passed since Sandy Hook?
No, but there's been a lot at the state level. There are 18 states that have put in background check requirements, not taking away your guns. Just before you buy one, you have to go through the background check process. The 19th state is Nevada. The people publicly have voted for it, but the governor's not implemented it. And there are another, 31 states that we can get at a local level. It'd be a lot easier if the Congress did it.
Yeah.
Just have background checks. And when you survey NRA members, 80 and 90% of them want background checks.
This could go on forever, but we have to take a break so that we can talk about the other project that you're involved in, okay? So it's not that much time. More, would Michael do that? So, Mayor, the documentary that you just produced, Paris to Pittsburgh, shows some of the ways the current administration has rolled back progress in the area of climate change. So, I always ask the same question. Don't politicians who are who are deniers or who roll back things, don't they have to breathe the same air that you and I have to breathe?
Absolutely do. And it went from Paris to Pittsburgh when he said he was there to protect people from Pittsburgh, and the mayor of Pittsburgh stood up and said, we breathe the same air that they breathe in Paris.
Yeah.
And that's where the name of the movie came from. And how they can walk away from something. You go to Iowa, a third of all their energy comes from windmills. Talk to the farmers, they see it every day. There are droughts, there are floods, their crops grow differently. And in fact, we interviewed some people who were training to be engineers and fix all the windmills. And it's a great job for young kids out of school. And because everybody's going to need them for an awful long time. They can travel around the world, it's everything.
Do you think we're too far gone now to fix the climate change?
I hope not.
Do you think we should do nuclear power like much of Europe?
I've never objected to nuclear power. It hasn't killed anybody, but it's so controversial, you're not going to have it here. It is carbon neutral. It has shown to be reasonably safe, but it would take forever to get it in. So it's just a non-starter, and it's not worth it.
Do you think President Trump actually... Do you think he believes in what he says when Fair Sanders says this is not based on fact when it's a report from the own administration? Or do you think they're trying to just appease what they think the base wants?
It is really hard when you look outside or when you watch television, you see the forest fires and the floods and 3 feet of rain in South Carolina. How can you not believe that something isn't changing? And how can you not listen to all the great scientists in the world, or virtually all of them? So I don't know. I can't speak for what Donald Trump says or why. You got to ask him.
Well, the film also looks at Casa Pueblo in Puerto Rico.
Right.
It's just amazing. It runs largely on renewable energy and was one of the only places that was operable after Hurricane Maria. And as Puerto Rico rebuilds, what opportunities do you think exist to prevent this kind of massive power failure that we saw from happening again? I mean, it was one of the only places when I was there, people were saying that they could charge their phones.
You have to build to a higher standard. You have to understand there are going to be big storms. So you don't just put up a wooden pole that can come down in the wind. You put up a cement pole with steel to hold it up. You know you're going to have more hurricanes. You know you're going to have more big winds. So build for it. Build your houses a lot stronger. People say that's a great idea, but not my house.
Right. And in terms of renewable energy, I mean, solar panels, that kind of thing.
If they, after seeing that, don't urge everybody in the world to stop polluting, I don't know what would get you to stop polluting.
Okay, I just want to say before we go that Michael Bloomberg also gave $1.8 billion to Johns Hopkins University so that no young, poor people have to pay for their education. His new documentary, Paris to Pittsburgh, airs Wednesday night on National Geographic. An updated edition of his best-selling autobiography, Bloomberg by Bloomberg, will be out January 7th. We'll be right back.
This week, look who's hitting the view. Ken Jeong, Leah Remini, Armie Hammer, Felicity Jones, Leslie Mann, and oh wait, did I mention Jennifer Lopez? Yes! Jennifer will be here Wednesday. And it wouldn't be Happy Holidays at the View without Darlene Love. Plus special guest Bryan Adams. This week on The View on ABC. Tomorrow, Ken Jeong on how he's handling being on board the wildest, star-studded new game show, The Masked Singer. And stumped about what kids want this holiday? We're unveiling this season's hottest toys Ray want under the tree this year.
The man behind Oscar and Emmy-winning works like The Social Network and The West Wing has adapted an American classic for the Broadway stage that's as relevant today as it was when it was first written, Harper Lee's historic novel To Kill a Mockingbird. Please welcome Aaron Sorkin. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
It's I love the play. I just told you that at the break. I went to see it and it's phenomenal. But it's a very interesting time now in this country. We were just talking to Michael Bloomberg about it, and you've written a few political dramas in your day. What's your take on everything that's going on in the White House? I mean, is this giving you even more material to work with?
Well, you know, there's what's going on in the White House, and there's what's going on with all of us in the country. And one of the things that happens in the play is that Atticus sort of wakes up to the fact that he didn't really know who his friends and neighbors were. And I think that a lot of us, anywhere on the ideological spectrum, have felt the same way for the last 2 years, that we kind of woke up saying, I had no idea they, whoever they is for you, felt that way.
Yeah, that's so true. Sometimes to calm myself, I will pull up old episodes of The West Wing. I love that show so much. You can really watch it at any time.
Thanks. Well, it was, The West Wing, again, no matter where you are on the ideological spectrum, it was about a group of hyper-competent people who were dedicated to public service, and they were going to slip on banana peels a lot, and they were going to lose as much as they won, but you knew for sure that when they got up in the morning, they cared about you.
Is there going to be a...
Netflix right now, I believe.
Netflix.
One of those.
It is, I didn't want to do a plug, but yes, it is.
Well, you can tell us this. Is there going to be a reboot? I think people have been aching for that. Sterling K. Brown, who's awesome, was rumors that he'd be happy to do it.
And God knows we'd be happy to have him. The cast and I, we have dinner once every 3 months or so. It's something we'd love to do, but we're also very protective of the memory of the show. And so I don't want it to be a kind of Brady Bunch reunion. So if I can get a good idea, which is something that doesn't happen very often, then I'll do it. But otherwise, it'll just have to stay on.
It's not a no.
It's not. I'm not slamming the door on it.
One hot topic that constantly comes up is Facebook. And Facebook has been under fire recently for selling off political data, lobbying against George Soros, covering up Russian election meddling, among all the other scandals. You obviously wrote an entire movie about how the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, got in over his head when he originally created Facebook from his college dorm room. Did you see all this coming?
I don't think anybody could have seen that coming up. First of all, I have to tell you, I know more about Facebook in 2005 than I know about it in 2018, but I read the paper like anybody else. Mark, talk about being in over his head. It just seems like the water keeps climbing no matter how far his nose gets to the surface. But there's definitely an interesting movie in what you just described.
So let's talk about To Kill a Mockingbird. You call this project a suicide mission for yourself. Why do you say that?
Well, To Kill a Mockingbird is one of the most beloved novels in American literature. In fact, last month, PBS viewers voted it the most beloved novel. What could I do but make it less than what it was? So knowing that on any given night, most people in the audience will either have read the book or seen the movie or both. I was nervous going into it, but then at some point you just have to make the decision. I'm not going to swaddle the book in bubble wrap and gently transfer it to a stage. That's not what theater is for. So this play is not an homage. It's not an exercise in nostalgia. It's not a trip to the museum. This is a new play that takes a new look at To Kill a Mockingbird and nor did I pretend that I was writing it in 1960 when Harper Lee wrote it. I was writing it today.
How would she feel about it, do you think? About what you did?
I've asked that question before, and I've been asked that question before, rather. And the last thing she did before she passed away was approve me as the playwright who was going to do it.
So great.
So that's nice. That said, listen, you mentioned The West Wing. I wrote the first 4 seasons of The West Wing before I had to leave the show. The first time I saw an episode of The West Wing not written by me, I needed CPR. So I imagine that a stranger making new words come out of the mouths of her beloved characters would not thrill her, but what I hope is that she would understand that the playwright had a deep love and respect for her novel. But the thing is, things have changed in 58 years. It's time to take a new look at Atticus. When most of us, we were taught the book in middle school, and we were taught that Atticus's tolerance, his idea that there's goodness can be found in everyone, and all you have to do is crawl around in someone else's skin, and you'll get to know them, that was a virtue. And in the book, in the movie, Atticus has the answers. In the play, he struggles with these questions. Is being tolerant of intolerance a virtue?
I thought that the play really stayed true to the spirit of the book. And in fact, this book was mandatory reading for me when I first went to law school. It was on our reading list at Notre Dame, and what's striking when you're watching the play is how relevant the story feels in 2018, because you've got a small-town lawyer in the Deep South defending an innocent black man against a white woman's rape allegation.
Right.
And you say you were influenced by Charlottesville.
Yeah, here's how. In going back and looking at the book again, and realizing that that Atticus insists on others being understood, that you have to understand Bob Ewell, who was a member of the Klan, as a guy who he just lost his job, so that's going to make him feel small. You have to understand Mrs. DuBose, who was just a horrible racist, as a woman who she recently stopped taking her medication. That's why she's like that. You have to understand the 12 jurors who sit in judgment over Tom Robinson as who they are. Started to sound an awful lot to me like there were fine people on both sides. Now, in the case of Atticus Finch, that is coming from a good place. He means well. He's wrong, but he means well. In the case of the person who actually said it, I can't say the same thing. But the play takes a harder look at whether or not Atticus is right.
People are just racist.
Well,
They are.
True.
Some people are just racist, and there's no two sides to the story.
I really hope that people will go see this play because it's fantastic. Thanks to Aaron Sorkin.
Thanks so much.
To Kill a Mockingbird is in previews now. It opens December 13th at the Shubert Theater. Please go see it. We'll be right back.
Next.
If you're starting to freak out like me over getting holiday shopping done, we're making it a lot easier for you. We've partnered with vendors for at least half off some of this season's best gift ideas while supplies last. So let's get shopping with Lifestyle Extra.
Can't go wrong gifts right here, girl. Don't you worry. First one up, Hoodoos. Check these Sherpa socks out. They're lined Sherpa all the way down, cozy, comfortable. Give the gift to cozy. Who doesn't love that? It's a no-brainer gift. Also,
feel
headbands
good.
and mittens go online. Tons for men and women. Easy to gift. Gift yourself or anyone else. Original price on these, Sunny, $25 to $30. Today's deal, you're not going to believe it, $12.50 to $15.
I like that.
Next one I love for you is K. Carroll. Check this out. I know I dipped that. K. Carroll. This is the most modern tote, you guys, because it's a carry-all, but it's smart. It has 8 pockets, 4 exterior, 4 interior, and the interior ones have RFID lining. That's a security lining for our cards so that we keep our personal information safe.
Oh, that's
all
good.
All of these colors are all year round, and so is the fabric. So it's a smart gift to give if you want to give a great accessory. Phones on the outside, keys, and credit cards on the inside. Isn't that easy to get in and out of? Oh, an extra wide strap. So it's comfy. Original price on these, $60. Can't believe it, $25. Wow. Savings of more than half off. I'm dying to show you these. Now, you are going to love it. Erin Condren. Okay, so she has a collection of gorgeous little journals. This is when you want to get your game next level for the new year. This is the collection to do it. Journals, planners. Amazing. And what I brought you, because you know it's a gifting day, check out this little metallic stationery set for 15 different occasions.
Birthday, thank
every
you.
card you ever needed but couldn't find. Original price on these,
good.
$6 to $40. Today's deal, $3 to $20.
That's really good.
You're gonna love that.
That's good.
Pink House style. Oh, I love these. Assorted jewelry. When you want to give glam and bling and you want it to look like a lot but cost a little, this is Pink House. Biggest assortment I've ever brought you of great. I have it all on. Check it out. See my bracelets? I stacked them up and put them on because more is more here. These are designed to go with anything they already have or you already have. So earrings, which I love, necklaces, bling on the wrist, see? And it's super adjustable so no one gets stuck with the wrong size. Original price on these, $14 to $76. Today's deal, $5 to $28 plus free shipping for you. This is for you too, my love.
Oh, thank you.
Spring,
You're gonna love this. Check out this. This is Sprigs, and this is a cold weather accessory. But put it on. Fingerless gloves on one side. It's got a pocket.
Because if you're going out to the chicken coop,
that's
you
right.
need to use your fingers.
And she can store her phone, her keys, her credit cards, all her necessities. So if you want to lighten your load or gift on your list, this is great.
That's
the
a
other
good
one, you
one.
guys, is this. I love this for going sightseeing, going to the gym. Check this out. Pocket here, zipper pocket here, super safe. And one for the arm. Original price on these, $15 to $28. Today's deal, $7 to $14. Savings 50 to 55%. I think these are so smart.
These are
Did
good.
you see the little wristlets?
I like
and
that.
also for your arm. Now, I can't wait to show you this because I know that you will love this. Biaggi. So Biaggi they have a whole line of foldable luggage and accessories. These are the two new must-have pieces because whether we travel or we have someone on our list that's a traveler, we want it to go easy, right? So check it out. The first one is that you're going to go from carry-on and it expands into a checked luggage piece. You just zip this and it expands. It's right down there.
How much is this?
Yeah, amazing. And the next one is under seat that expands into an overhead size. Price is original $25 to $170. Today's deal, $12.50 to $85 for the genius gift of Biaggi luggage.
Well, our thanks to Greta Monahan. The clock is ticking. You have 24 hours to grab any of these exclusive deals at viewyourdeal.com. Members of our studio audience are going home with gifts from Biaggi, Pink House Jewelry,